Hello everyone, welcome back to another topic, conditional statement, the if construct. Okay, so what is this conditional statement in Python? If you have or if you review the previous questions or the previous programs that we did, they come under the sequence statements. Why? Because each line of your program will be executed one after the other in the order that you have written. For example, if you remember, we did the area of a rectangle question in chapter 1. So there you read the length, then you read the breadth, then you calculated the area, and then you displayed the area. So those 4 steps were executed in a sequence without skipping any step. In conditional statements, we will not be necessarily executing all the lines of my program. It will depend on a certain condition. Now, what do I mean by condition? Let me just give you a general example. Okay, I want to go shopping. Okay, and then I think, okay, if it's raining, I will carry an umbrella. Okay, so now if you look at this statement about carrying an umbrella, am I talking about carrying an umbrella always? No, I'm talking about carrying an umbrella only if it is raining, which means what? I wouldn't carry an umbrella when it's not raining. Or I have not specified anything general in terms of what I will do if it is not raining. Okay. Suppose I put up another statement. For example, I say, if it's sunny, I wear sunglasses. If it's rainy, I carry an umbrella. So now what is happening? Sunglasses will be worn when it's sunny. I will be carrying an umbrella when it's raining, which means carrying of an umbrella depends upon the weather condition, whether it is raining. Similarly, wearing sunglasses depends upon the weather condition, whether it's sunny. So, which means carrying of umbrella as well as carrying of or wearing glasses will not happen all the time. It will depend on a certain condition. And what is the condition? The weather condition. Similarly, in our programs, we will be doing certain lines in our programs depending upon certain conditions that I need to apply in my program. Okay, and how do I go about with applying conditions and doing statements is by using the if construct. So let me just take you through the 3 different kinds of ifs that you could probably be seeing. The first one being just the if construct. Okay, now look at this line carefully, or these statements carefully. Basically, they're not Python programming lines. They're just a format or a syntax of an if. When I get into the program, I do statement A for sure. That too as the first statement. Next it says if condition. So there is always a condition that is written with the keyword if. Okay, that condition that I'm talking about can, evaluate to a true or a false. So this condition that I'm talking about can give me a true answer or can give me a false answer. Okay, because it's a condition. If it's raining, it's a condition, correct? So if it was raining in my first example, I was supposed to be carrying an umbrella. So if it is raining, I will do statement B and statement C. Statement B and statement C, if you see it carefully, it's indented. Indented means what? Written a little within the if construct, which means B and C are a part of the if statement. Such statements that you see are called compound statements. Compound statements generally have a header. This is the header, followed by the colon symbol, and then the body of the compound statement. That means the statements that you will perform under that compound statement. So B and C form the body of the compound statement and not statement D. Why not statement D? If you look at the alignment of statement D is not written within if. It's not indented in the if. It's just a regular statement. Clear? So if is a compound statement. Compound statements generally consist of two or more statements and they're clubbed together. In our previous examples that we have seen, or programs that we have seen before, had no compound statements. They were all simple statements. They were all single statements, like the input, the print. They were just one statement and they had nothing to do with each other. They were not connected, logically connected, but it didn't mean the second print couldn't appear because the first print wasn't there. Here, statement B and statement C are a part of the if condition. Now, when will B and C be executed? Since it's written within the if, they will only get executed provided the condition that you have mentioned there evaluates to a true. Okay, so is it guaranteed that B and C will take place? Not sure. It depends on the condition. It depends on the weather, whether I'll carry an umbrella. So it depends on a condition whether the program executes the line B and C. So how is the program execution in this scenario? Statement A will be executed at all times because it is not a part of a conditional statement. Then you have a if with a condition. If the condition evaluates to a true, you do B and C. If the condition evaluates to a false, they have not told you what exactly to be done. So there is nothing to be done specifically when it is false. But statement D will always be done irrespective of whether it was true or false. So let me just tell you the flow of control. If the condition, it will do A. If the condition is true, it will do B, C, followed by D. But if the condition is false, it would have done A, and because it's false, it cannot do B and C, but it would do statement D. So statement A and statement D have nothing to do with the condition because they're not indented within the if. So only B and C depends upon the condition. And this part or this kind of if only talks about what to do when the condition is true. It doesn't talk about what to do when the condition is false. But do we need such constructs with us? Yes. And for that purpose, we will be making use of the if-else construct. Now, the if-else construct looks something like this. Now, how is this evaluated? As usual, you will do statement A. Then you check the condition. Now, this condition I said could evaluate to a true or could evaluate to a false. If it evaluates to a true, if it will do B and C. And if it evaluates to a false, then I've added another statement called, or another block, compound statement called else. So when do you go to the else part of the program is when the condition evaluates to a false. So if your condition evaluates to a false, the control comes to the else part. If it is raining, I carry an umbrella. Else, otherwise I carry sunglasses. So that's the else here. So if the condition evaluates to a false, it comes to the else statement and then it does condition D. Now can you see D is indented in the else part? So D is the only statement I need to do if the condition is false. Okay, but statement E is neither a part of if nor a part of else. So statement E is going to be done at all times, which means I would do A. If the condition is true, I would do B, I would do C, and after doing C, I would jump and do statement E. Another scenario, when the condition is false, I would do A. I will check the condition. If the condition evaluates to a false, we come to the else. The else forces me to do statement D. And after doing statement D, I would do E. So remember, E has nothing to do with your if else. It's not indented in if, neither indented in else. It's a compulsory statement of my program. So if you look in both these syntaxes or formats, you realize that every time your program is not going to be executing every line. And that is why it's called conditional statement. Okay. or it's sometimes called selection statement. Why? Only selective statements are executed depending upon what the condition evaluates to. So this condition that you've written here should have a true value or a false value, and depending on that, it will decide what to do. Okay, here we have only one condition. Is it raining? Okay, if it's raining, do this, otherwise do that. Okay, let's talk about your traffic signal. It has multiple conditions. If it's red, you stop. If it's orange, you get ready. If it's green, you go. So then there are multiple conditions to be checked, not just one. In that scenario, what can I do? I can make use of another construct called the if, elif, else construct. Now, how does this work? If you've understood the previous two, the logic is the same. Here in Python, it's very easy because indentation is a must. That means putting it in a little indented inside is a must. So it's easy to know which statement will be done where. In generally other programming languages, they tell it is a good practice to do indentation, but indentation was not compulsory. Here, indentation is compulsory. Okay, so in this scenario, what will happen? I will do statement A, then I will check for condition 1. Now, condition 1 could be a true or could be a false. Okay, if it's true, what do? We get into the if. So if it's true, I come and do B. Okay, if it's false, then what do I do? Normally I go to the else, but here there is an elif, which stands for else if. If it's false, you come and check the second condition. So now there is a possibility that this second condition is true or the second condition is false. If it's true, what do I do? Get into the if. So if it's true, I do C as well as D. But if this is false, if second condition is false, then where do I get to go? To else, because that condition is also false. You could have had another elif and a condition, another elif that depends upon the number of conditions given in the question. And then you go to the else and you execute statement F. But let me tell you one thing, statement G is not a part of any of the conditions or the else part. So in this scenario, remember, statement G, you will have to do when you come out of this if. So the whole idea here is, I will either do B if condition 1 is true, or do C and D if condition 2 is true, or do F if condition 1 and condition 2 both are false. Okay, so it all depends upon the questions. How many conditions do we need to check? And should we use a if, should we use a if else, or should we use a if elif? Depends upon the number of conditions given in the question. Clear? So these were just the formats. Don't worry, I'll be showing you programs related to all these categories, so it becomes a little more clear. Okay, let me just clear my annotations before I move ahead. Now there is something called the nested if. Now what does a nested if mean? Nested if means having a if construct within an if construct, or having a if construct within the else part. Either ways it's called nested. Having a if in an if is called nested. One way of seeing a nested construct, a nested if, is as shown here. So if you look here very carefully, you have a condition here. Now this condition can evaluate to what we said, a true or a false. Now, if it's true, normally if it's true, where do we do? What do? We get into the if. Now, when I got into the if, there is another condition that I need to check for. So again, this condition can give me a true or a false. Now, if this condition is true, I will do statement A. So which means statement A got executed when condition 2 is true, but condition 2 got executed, or you checked condition 2 only if condition 1 is true. Now, what happens if condition 2 is false? I don't have an else with that condition 2. Why? Because can you see any else that is in line with the if? No. So if condition 2 is false, there is nothing specific to be done in this particular program. You may have an else there. It depends on the question. Then when do you come to this else? You will come to this else only if the first condition evaluates to a false. So if your condition 1 evaluates to a false, you will reach here and do statement B. Now, how do I know that this else doesn't belong to condition 2 and belongs to condition 1? Is because of the alignment. Else is aligned with respect to condition 1. So it belongs to the else of condition 1. If else was written a little in line with this, then it would mean that this else belongs to condition 2 and there is no else that connects you to condition 1. So nesting just means, I've just shown you an if. I could have shown you an if else within an if else. That is up to you depending on the program. So here, but what did I do? I wrote the if in the if part of the first condition. You could also have another way of doing it. Now, if you see here, I've written a if, but I've written it in the else part of the condition. So in the else part here, in the previous example, I just had statement B. But here, if the first condition is true, okay, fine, do this. But if the first condition is false, then you come to the else part. But after you come to the else part, you can't directly start doing a statement. In the else part, you need to check another condition. If the condition is true, you do B. But remember, children, whether it's the first part, first segment, or the second segment, statement C has nothing to do with either of the ifs or the elses. It's just a statement towards the end of the program, which has to be done compulsorily. Now, this may look confusing. Oh, ma'am, how will I know how to write? The program or the question will lead you to what you need to write. But I hope the formatting part is clear. Okay, we will be now moving to Spider ID, and I've been using Spider ID, and we'll be actually looking at some programs as examples, so it's clear to you what I'm talking about in all these formats. Is that clear? Okay, so let me just clear my annotations. Take you to Spider IDE. Okay, and let's look at the first program. It says, write a program to read a number from the user and to display the square of the number if the number is odd. Okay, so you have to read a number from the user. Let me get ready to read a number from the user. So how do you read a number from the user? We've already learned the input function. So enter the number. Okay, whatever message you write here is the message that you will see for the user. So enter a number, the user has entered a number, and where is the number going to be stored? In a variable called no, and it's treated or going to be converted as an int. Why did we write an int here? We said because input reads everything as a string. I want to treat it as a number. So I wrote the int there. Okay, then what? Okay, you need to check if the number is odd, because only then you need to display the square. Okay, how do you check if the number is odd or even? If you divide the number by 2 and if you get the remainder as 0, for example, look at number 7, look at number 5, look at number 9, or any odd number. If you divide that number by 2, the remainder always is going to be 1 and it's not going to be 0. For even numbers, the number is going to be, the remainder is going to be 0. Try dividing. We have learned the division operation. You try dividing and find the modulus. So what do I do here? I write if no modulus of 2 not equal to 0. Or I could have written no modulus of 2 equals 1. Because when you divide a number by 2, you can only get 2 possibilities as remainder, either 0 or 1. Any number that is less than 2. Suppose I divide, now this is maths, but I'm just telling you, if you divide a number by 5, what could you get as remainder? Is only 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can never get 5 as a remainder or anything more. So here, if you're dividing a number by 2, you can either get a 0 or a 1. And I told you when it's 0, it means it's completely divisible. Completely divisible makes it even. I'm interested in odd. So, and can you see when I'm pressing the enter key, it's already indented. Now this is a compound block. Why? You have a colon on that header line. with the if, and now whatever I write is connected to if. So what do I need to do? I need to be displaying the square of the number. I could probably take the square into a variable. Let's say x is equal to, how do you write the square of a number? One way would be no into no, okay? But if I want to use mathematical functions, you remember we learned the math.pow, you could have used here. And I just display the answer. I say the square is, okay, the square is, and where is the square stored? In variable x, okay. Now when I'm pressing the enter key again, it's again indenting me with if, but I have nothing more to be done with if. So I go back and I'm just giving a statement saying program over. This was not must, but I just want to tell you is this line has nothing to do with your if. Whether your if evaluates to a true or a false, it will give me the statement program over. Now let's just run the program and exactly figure out what's happening. Okay. So when I run the program, it's going to be asking me to enter a number. Okay. Okay. Now I'm entering a number 10. Now 10 is even. So will you satisfy that if condition? No. You will directly get a message program over because they didn't tell me what to do with the even number. So I just have an if. I do not have an else. Let me just run this program once again. Okay. Now suppose I enter a odd number. So I've entered 5. It says the square is 25. Why? Because 5 was odd. So you entered into the if block, which is the compound statement of the if. You calculated x, which is 5 into 5, and then you displayed it. But can you see program over still appearing? Because I told you program over has nothing to do with your condition. Is that clear? Okay, let me just show you one more example in this part of the video. It says, write a program to read a number from the user and to display if the number is odd or even. So now you have to check whether it's divisible by 2 as well as not divisible by 2. So let me just take my previous lines so I don't have to write so many things. Okay, so I read a number from the user. Okay. What does NO modulus of 2 not equal to 0 mean? You're checking whether it's odd. Let me show you what if I had to check if it was even. I could have even done that. Huh? Okay. NO modulus of 2 equals 0 means you're checking whether it's even. Okay. If it's even, what did they say? You have to just display, no? So I just say print even. Okay. I'm not putting very heavy statements. I'm just saying even. Okay. Now, can you see it's indented in the if, but I don't want it. I want to write a else, which has to be under else, under if. So I have just removed the indentation, but now I got the indentation directly. And here it says print odd. Okay. And now I want to write program over, not a part, but I just want to show you that this line, because it's not in an if and not in an else, it will definitely get printed. So I write a message saying program over. Okay. And let me just run this program for you. It's asking me to enter a number. Let's say I enter 5. What do you expect to see? The word odd. Odd, program over. Okay, let me just run the program once again. It's asking me for a number, and let's say the number is now 4. We know it's even. So what message do you see? Even, over. So what is the execution? It will do this. Then it will check the condition. What does equals 0 means? When you have performed the division and when you get the remainder, is it equal to 0? If it is, you print it's even and come out and say program over. If it's not, it's false, then where do you go when the condition is false? You go to the else part. And what does the else part ask you to do? To print that it is odd. Clear? So the previous program and this program, previous program showed you my first syntax, which was only talking about if. This was talking about the if as well as the else if. And the next program that I plan to do, and probably the last in this category, don't worry, I will be doing some more programs in the next part of the video, okay, is something like this. It says, write a program to read employee name and monthly salary of an employee and calculate his annual salary and tax. And for calculation of tax, they have given you certain conditions, okay? So I've just written my input statements. So I read employee number, I read name. The main calculation part is left blank. The last three lines that you see at 11, 12, and 13 as of now are just the displaying of the employee number, the annual salary, and the tax, but I haven't calculated. Okay. If you know the monthly salary of an employee, what is annual salary? Annual salary is nothing but 12 times the monthly salary. So I write 12 multiplied by MSAL. Okay. So I got my annual salary calculated. After that, look at these conditions. You're supposed to be calculating tax based on the condition here. So it's checking whether the annual salary is more than 12 lakh. How do you check for something? It's a condition, right? So you write if and the condition. What is condition? Annual salary. But where have you stored annual salary in your program? In a variable called ASAL. So ASAL greater than or equal to 12 lakh. Okay, then in that scenario, what do I want to calculate? I want to calculate tax. And what is the formula for tax? It says 10% of annual salary. What does 10% of anything mean? 10 divided by 100 into annual salary. Where is annual salary stored in my program? In a sal. Okay. Was this the only condition given? No. They've given you another condition which says, what if it's more than 6 lakh? Not more than 12 lakh, but more than 6 lakh. So I have to write elif because there's another condition appearing in the question. And I write ASAL greater than or equal to 6 lakh. Then what happens? What is tax calculated as? Tax is calculated as what percent? 5%. So 5 divided by 100 into annual salary in my program. Remember guys, you've written a sal and you have to write in the same format. I cannot write capital A sal because you remember we've learned that variables are identifiers and identifiers are case sensitive, correct? Okay. Now, is there one more question in the, one more condition in the question? No, it had only two conditions. One, you check more than 12, one you check more than 6. Otherwise means what? It's not more than 12 as well as not more than 6. Then I have no specific conditions to be checked. So I just write else. Else, what does it say? Calculate tax as what? Oh, no tax. Now, will I write the word no tax? No. Instead, I will write 0 because 0 means no tax. And after the calculation, I have just displayed the employee number, the annual salary, and tax. I've written this before so that, we don't waste time. Our concentration is basically this. So did you see the flow of the program? Always you have input statements, then you have what you have to do with those inputted values, and then you have a display. That's going to be the format almost everywhere. Okay, so let me just run this program for you. Okay, it's asking me for employee number. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. It's asking me for monthly salary. Let me give him 2 lakh. Okay, so now when you say 2 lakh multiplied by 12, it's going to be more than 12 lakh. So I'm in the first category. Okay, the annual salary is 24 lakh. Okay, and 24, what is 10%? Tax is calculated as 10%, and you see, use your calculator, you'll come to know that this is the value. Clear? Let me just run the program for another small value. Let's say where he doesn't get salary. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Now his salary is, let's say, 2,000. So I know 2,000 is not, if you multiply it by 12, it's not going to be more than 12 lakh. Neither is it going to be more than 6 lakh. Okay. So can you see it's calculated as his annual salary and it's saying tax is 0. Is that clear? So with these three examples, I've shown you just if, I've shown you if else, and I've also shown you if elif else. Now, if you had more conditions in this question, you could continue doing it. Is that clear? So I hope you've understood the basic structure. Don't worry, in the second part of the video, you will see some more questions, probably a little more complicated. So I would suggest that you do go to the second part also, because these were just the basic questions. Okay, so see you in part 2 of conditional statement, where we are learning the if construct.